hey everybody, hoping the Wi-Fi is working well today. So today's video, and this is really important for a paralegal who's experienced as well, but most of you are looking at entering for the first time. This is your start of a new career. So what are the 3 signs of a fulfilling, great paralegal job? Okay, now I'm going to do a little intro here and ask you a question. What do you perceive to be a great paralegal job? What does it entail for you? Not just learning the work and getting experience, but what are those factors that determine it for you? Is it, and I know it's a combination, but is it pay? Is it prestige? Is it the values that the law firm or company or legal department of a corporation, government agency, nonprofit, is it the values that they ascribe to, that they possess? Oh, good reason, Christina. Purpose. Christina says purpose. How about this one? Nice boss. Yeah, this is it's not just the single most important thing for me, but boy, it's high on the list. So there was a survey done by a company called DDI, and they're a global consulting firm, and they found that 57% of folks that left their job left because of the manager. Now, when I use the term manager for this video, it's going to mean the hiring attorney, not the office manager. The office manager really works at the beck and call of the attorneys that hired that person. Okay, they don't have as much say so as you might think. They can make recommendations, but it's ultimately up to the attorneys, okay? They're also an employee, but they're like the go-between between the staff and the attorneys, and it's a tough job. So 57% of employees left because of the manager. Now, attorneys overall are not really happy about managing staff. That's why a lot, even in smaller law firms, want to have an office manager, because they don't want to deal with all that stuff. And they just want to work on the cases, and they don't want that type of, they always have somebody else that they're going to put that on. So you have the 57%, another 32% thought seriously about leaving the job because of that same reason. So you can see how impactful it is to have a nice boss, a decent human being. Gallup research showed that managers account for a 70% variance in what the employees feel about their workplace. That's how important that hiring attorney will be to you, as to whether you'll look forward to going to work or not. So in my Paralegal Inner Circle class, and I just did this video for my students, asking the right questions by you asking the right questions will determine whether you get into a workplace that you really want to be in, that you are looking forward to going in every day, that you're, excited about, as excited as you can be, And it's important for you to ask the right questions, okay? So we're not going to go into those questions, but if tomorrow's the last day for the Paralegal Inner Circle class. Jump on board, because there's a whole interview module in there. So let's look at the signs of what makes a great paralegal job, okay? Everybody wants to be seen and appreciated. I don't mean they're throwing a party because you learned how to do a legal document. I don't mean that. But there are not a lot of, the typical atta girl, atta boy, pat on the back going on in the legal workplace. It's not the norm. So you have to, and this is why I tell my students, I've done videos about this, take a notebook, and in that first job, you're going to be tracking everything you've learned, because every single skill that you bring to the table is valuable, and it has a dollar figure next to it. That means that you can trade up and make more money later, but you have to know how you got there, and you have to track your journey. And why do I say that? Because when you interview, well, number one, when you interview for your next job, your second job, you're going to talk about that as to what value you bring to the table. And I don't mean strong work ethic or detail-oriented. They expect that. What is the extra added that you bring that has to do with the legal field? Okay, always focus on that. So we want to be seen and appreciated. We want to be recognized occasionally for the work that we're doing. And yes, it may take you 4 to 6 months to feel like, oh, I'm getting the hang of some of this, truly, okay? But it's nice to get that feedback. Sometimes you have to ask for that feedback. Don't be afraid of that, because that's how you're going to measure how you're doing, but you're also going to measure it by tracking everything that you've learned. Okay? And I don't mean writing client names down. I mean writing the names of the documents you've drafted and research you've done, where, you learned how to do research. So, and one of the reasons I tell you to go do some research for yourself on Google is to hone those skills. You do legal research in other places, but you can also do it on Google. And when I'm telling you to go learn how to do what a paralegal does in family law, in criminal defense, or workers' compensation law, that you're going to go search for that on Google. Okay? Don't hesitate to learn how to use Google for what it's worth. Okay? Now, what happens when the employer, the hiring attorney, does not have those management skills? Again, you have to manage around that attorney. You have to be proactive. You can't just be reticent and sit there, and even if you're an introvert, and I have that side of me as well, you have to push yourself. You're not going to hole away in some office. You'll be dealing with clients, you'll be answering phones, you'll be dealing with the attorney. So you want to be a better communicator, okay? What I did, one of the things I did in a well-known law firm in northern Florida was I earned some certificates in the area of Microsoft Word Advanced User. And I had a certificate, I put it in a frame. We were not allowed to put it on the wall, but I put it on a shelf I had. And the attorneys noticed this, and I want them to notice it. Every skill that I developed that was new, if I earned something for it, like I earned a written English professional certificate, these are not mandatory, okay? I'm just saying, I took that certificate as well, and I put that up on the shelf. The law firm I was with was simply not the only game in town. It's not the only place I would ever work. And I always knew that. Always remember that. It's not your end game. So you're developing a career. You're not just working for them. You're developing something really important. That's why you track everything you know. And keep that notebook. Take it home. Don't leave it at the office. It's totally acceptable to do. You just are helping yourself. In your spare time, write down those things you did in that day. Okay, so that you have what did I learn technically? Am I learning new stuff on Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint? and what am I learning on the legal side of things, okay? All right, so the first sign was you want to be seen and appreciated. So sometimes you have to ask for feedback. Like, was that okay? Did I, do that well? Did I perform that task well? And I've had attorneys say, oh, yeah, that was great, but they wouldn't offer it on their own. So, yeah. And when you're in that job for a year and they're happy with you, there's no harm in asking for a letter of recommendation. It's not for another job, but it can be used for that. But it could just be, I just want it for my file. Okay. So, number 2, seeing that your work, your job, your performance matters. I can tell you it'll matter to the client. And yes, it should matter to the attorney, but that is not always expressed. Again, that's why you have to ask for that. If you are writing things down in your notebook, and somebody notices it, you just say, well, no, I want to remember all the things I'm learning to remind myself, just little notes. And they'll see that you care about your job, and that's important for you. Even if you don't get that feedback voluntarily, it's important for you and it will make you happy on the job. Number 3, gauging your progress and your contribution, having proof of what you are doing. That comes down to this again. But knowing what the big picture is for a case is important. Like, what has been your contribution to that? What did you prepare? What did you do? And when you first start, you don't really realize a lot of this, but all the puzzle pieces will come together. But you matter to that law firm or government agency, courthouse, legal department of a corporation, nonprofit. You matter. And when you feel as if you matter, and if you feeling that depends on voluntary feedback from people, that might not happen. You have to remember that you helped a client or 5 clients today. You don't have to write that down because that's personal, private, confidential, okay, matters. Their case is private and confidential. What you are totally free to write down is like, I did a notice of deposition. That's all. And you want to remind yourself, or you learned something new. Write that down, but don't put client names or anything like that, because again, it's private. So while we may think that every law firm or every legal workplace does a review annually, I've worked in most law firms and that's where I've worked primarily. They gave raises, the same raise to everybody across the board, so there would be no bickering, no upset, because people talk to each other, and they would often say, don't talk to each other about what you got, but people always talk. And so that's kind of a cop-out, and that's kind of an uneven way to manage that. You should be able to be rewarded for your contribution, okay? And so understand, numero uno, to protect yourself, you have to ask incredible, on point, digging deep questions in that interview, because it's important to your mental health, to your livelihood, to your future career. It's important all the way around. It's not where you are not to sit there in that interview and just let them ask the questions and you not have any input. It is a 180 interview, okay? So you've got to be able to come up with those questions and ask them. And that's part of what I teach in the Paralegal Inner Circle class. So remember, that goes away tomorrow at 11:59. I had somebody ask if I would extend the enrollment. If you need that, you can let me know. You can let me know at paralegalcoffeetalk@yahoo.com if that's what you're looking at. That doesn't hold you to it, but if that's what you're looking at, just holler at me, okay? Because the link will be live on my website, okay? So, but I'm trying to get everybody into a Paralegal Inner Circle group from that take the class, and it's nice to have everybody kind of start around the same time within a month of each other. So that is it for today. I hope this was helpful and gave you some insight. Asking questions impresses the attorneys. Always does, because they know you're going to ask questions when you're stuck and you're not going to make an assumption. Making assumptions in the legal field is a big no-no. It is not the way to go. You cannot guess, no guesstimates. So asking them questions will prove to them that you're a person who's going to dig deep, and you will ask questions in that office even on day one. Okay? All right, so have a great day. Thanks for being here live with me, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye. Take care.